Gunderholfen Mega Dungeon solo using the Beckme D&D set from the 80s and 90s. That's the basic Expert Companion Master and Immortal set. I'm trying to discuss my reflections on both the Mega Dungeon and Beckme in my downtime episodes in between the sessions. But for now, this is session number 5. I'm going to jump into it because I've done some bookkeeping. Not as much as I'd like, but I tend to just want to jump into things and start playing. So that's kind of what I'm doing. My party had ventured back to the Gunderholfen dungeon, back to the second entrance that they'd tried that was once guarded by kobolds. They had a new party member with them, the female cleric Tori, who they had met when they visited the temple of Parlay in the city with the body of one of their fallen comrades, Genevieve. So this party of 5 adventurers set out with Tori. Tori was sort of charged by her priestess, Josephine, with protecting this party as they ventured into this dangerous place and possibly slew these monsters. Tori embraced this mission. You may have seen in the session where I rolled up Tori as a character that she has a very low dex with a -2 penalty, it's a dex of 4. I wanted to come up with some reason in her backstory, why she has that low dex. So what I want to say is that she grew up in a farming family and had some kind of accident that broke her legs or her back. When she healed, she had lost a bit of the normal range of dexterity that a human might have. So that is why she has this score and why she became a cleric. She pledged herself to the Temple of Parlay, saw this religious calling as something that could substitute for maybe what she couldn't do in life and couldn't stay on the family farm. But this is another example of one of those places where I want just enough world building so that I can fill in details later. So that's sort of my backstory in mind for her, was there was some accident in her childhood that took her away from that occupation that she might have otherwise had and put her into the temple. And then when these young adventurers her age came along with a dead companion and these stories of monsters and a ghoul who had killed that companion of theirs, Tori saw that there was a way that she could have an adventurous life beyond what her normal range of movement or dexterity would have provided to her otherwise, and that she didn't have to stay in the temple, but she could still serve Cathalea and protect her home, protect the people around her in this new way. So Tori has embraced this quest and this mission with great verve. The party went out in session 4, ventured into this second entrance that they had tried that was guarded by kobolds, made their way down to this door that they had previously stuck with iron spikes. In my scratchy little map, it was right here. They found that door had been unstuck. They went in, and there were 2 kobolds there were 2 kobolds behind a portcullis here who attacked them. They attacked back. They killed one of those kobolds. The other ones seemed to run. When they started, 2 of them, Virago and Dobahai, started to lift this portcullis just using their bare hands, and Irwin, the halfling, stood guard. This kobold that had run away snuck back around the corner and struck with a spiked club right into Dobahai, dealing a killing blow. Dobahai died on the spot there. Fueled by this anger at the slaying of their companion, Irwin and Virago ripped this portcullis up just in time to see that kobold escaping south. They all pursued. The kobold ran into a cell. It quickly became apparent these were sort of like prison cells that the kobolds were using. When that kobold ran into that cell, it set free a hobgoblin that was not in great health, but was within that cell. So that hobgoblin tried to escape, ran out. Virago and Irwin were immediately confronted by this large monster, didn't know what to do, had the initiative, struck at this hobgoblin. A couple of strikes later, they had killed it and then killed the kobold. Inspecting the rest of the prison cells, they found a human woman named Isabel, who was the daughter of a clothier in Longfelt City named Clement. Isabel filled them in on as much as she knew. She had been abducted about a month ago by this kobold party that were raiding the group of people she was with outside the city. I guess she was doing something outside the walls. They raided that group, took her captive, killed some of the others. She had met the chief kobold. She warned the party of these giant weasels that the chief possesses. She said, "I'm sure my father would pay a reward if you can guarantee my safe passage back to the city." Virago had taken this very heroic interest in Isabel at that point and had already pledged their loyalty and protection to Isabel. There was a brief discussion where Talira wanted to continue exploring the dungeon or perhaps go collect more of these magic crystals that they had found to return to Balfour, but that talk was shot down immediately. Virago was not going to be moved on this point. Protecting Isabel, they set out from Gunderholfen across the Ganfell swamp. They encountered a band of goblins traveling there. They had the body of their slain companion. Did they have the body with them? I think they may have buried Dobahai outside Gunderholfen. But they had taken all of Dobahai's equipment. So they had this nice chainmail, as well as like a spear and a shield or something else. When they saw this goblin party, which outnumbered them, Virago made gestures to offer them these weapons and armor, rolling on the reaction table, rolling with Virago's charisma. The goblins accepted this and thought this was a fair trade for the safe passage of these humans and halfling across the swamp. The goblins took the offering, I guess, and my party continued to travel down to Longfelt. It was late at night. Of course, it always takes 2 watches to get back across the swamp to the city. And when they got there, they went straight to Clement's place of business and house where Isabel lived, awoke Clement. He was overjoyed, offered for them to stay there, offered them a reward of 500 gold pieces. They did not want to stay there. They wanted to give Isabel some space, but did accept the offer to come over for breakfast and a meal before they set out again the next day. But now they're newly wealthy in their eyes. They have 500 gold. They were previously like way down on their resources as far as like money goes. They were, a couple of them were just completely out of coin. And this has definitely refueled them, given them like a little safety net, and they can feel like they are safe and secure and can re-equip themselves as they might. Also, one thing that I forgot is that because gold equals experience points, they're all going to gain quite a bit of experience from this. Nonetheless, despite their newfound wealth, they decide to return to the Silver Flogger, which is an inn they know, and they're comfortable in that milieu. They go across the city late at night, book a room, all 4 stay in the room, so they have close watch on the gold and all their other possessions. Tori feels a little bit of guilt of not reporting back to the temple, especially with the death of Dobahai, but does have this mission in mind and feels like she is here to protect this party. And she knows now that there are violent monsters in this dungeon, and also knows that those violent monsters have taken their violence outside the dungeon and have done that violence to city people and villagers in the area, have kidnapped people, killed people. So Tori feels very, I don't want to say adamant, but feels very assured in her mission. Likewise, Virago feels very assured in their mission to continue through this dungeon. Virago is starting to feel that sort of mission that's been like set in them from birth. Virago wants to return to this dungeon, wants to map it, wants to clear it out. So I am feeling now like when I started the Mega Dungeon and started with this party, I kind of had this idea that Talira was the one leading them through this. Talira was basically like a city urchin, a thief here with no parental guidance, no grounding in family or friends or home. And Talira had come across the path of this magic user named Balfour, who Balfour is very transactional, wanted to find a thief that could go to this former dwarven settlement and basically raid it for magic items. That was Balfour's interest in Gunderholfen. So Talira was like a willing accomplice in that. So Talira, when I started the Mega Dungeon, was the driving force for this party. Now I've got characters that are connected to this quest in other ways. Irwin as well, who was friends with Dobahai and connected with the party together with Dobahai, now sees like the killing of her friend Dobahai as like a motivation to join this quest, clear out these monsters, map this dungeon, make some coin, gain some experience, level up in their skills. So I now have a whole party connected to Gunderholfen, and that is a really cool feeling about starting a quest this way. Certainly a lot of times when we start D&D campaigns, often, especially in like modern D&D, like 5th edition and beyond, DMs are looking for these like ways to get everyone involved. And on one hand, I think that players need to provide that themselves. The DM doesn't need to read a bunch of backstories and connect everyone. That's putting too much responsibility on the DM. But I also think there's a way to go out and have a few adventures, have 4 sessions, and figure out ways to connect to this quest or this larger adventure. And that's what's happened among my party. They are all now very connected, very invested in going back to this dungeon. They're also very worried. They're very scared. They've seen 3 companions die. They know how violent this is. They know that this life that they've chosen is violent and risky. I have spent a bit of time working on like a new sort of dashboard for tracking my party. I'm going to tweak this as I go, but I wanted a way to like quickly look at my characters without flipping through a bunch of sheets, and also look at the inventory they have as a party. Because of course they've been collecting these javelins as they've found the stash of the kobolds, and they're sharing these javelins, they're sharing these arrows, they're sharing these torches. You know, whenever someone needs a torch, another person can provide it if that person doesn't have it. So I do want to have encumbrance and like realism attached to this, but I don't want to be so attached to it that I'm in 4 different character sheets or 5 different character sheets or more different character sheets, riffling through them, trying to find exactly who has what. So this way I can track rations, iron rations, torches, arrows, javelins. I'm going to fill in loot and other things here. And then I have all the like quickie bits of my characters right here. So that's how I'm proceeding into session 5 with this. My party spends the night at the Silver Flogger Inn. The next morning they return to Clement and Isabel. Clement is just overjoyed to see his daughter returned. He had kind of given up hope. Was in a severe depression and really thinks that the 4 people in my party are heroes. I mean, they are to him for sure. As I said, this has redoubled the conviction with which Virago and Tori are approaching their quest and this adventure. Talira does have some doubts because Tori's, a priestess that they met at Tori's temple, Josephine, warned Talira that Balfour was a very transactional person, definitely led on that he was a bit evil, and that he was almost kind of using Talira. And Talira just doesn't have experience in the world and doesn't know whom to trust, but trusts her friends and sees how they took that warning, that caution. So Talira is considering that. She already had a purpose for going into the dungeon, which was to please Balfour and get paid by him. My other 3 are feeling that strong conviction. They have breakfast with Clement and Isabel and definitely declare their idea to return to the dungeon today. That is what they are going to do. Irwin had ordered some armor 2 days ago. It is the 8th. It is the morning of the 8th. Irwin had ordered armor on the morning of the afternoon of the 6th. It will be ready on the 10th. I'm wondering, now that they have a little bit of gold, can they pay a little bit more and maybe get that armor early so that Irwin's AC can go up and she is not such an easy target. So I believe halflings can wear any armor, just must be sized for them. Shield is permitted. Armor must be designed specially for halflings. So here's where I need those character sheets to dig in a little bit to the details that are on it. Here's Irwin. Oh, right. She only has leather armor and an AC of 7. I don't remember my shield situation, but I think Dobahai's was given away to the goblins. I didn't note it anywhere that they still had it, so it's gone. Irwin is for sure buying a shield. They return to that armorer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with plate mail and I'm going to go down. And she's going to ask, like, if he has plate mail, I'm going to do a yes or no. If it's a no, she'll go down to band mail. Basically, seeing if he has anything fitted for a halfling. Obviously, if I were playing this out with a party of people, I could determine that on my own as the dungeon master and just put it in there. But I don't want to, metagame that and make a call. I want to randomize this. So, does he have plate mail sized for a halfling? No. Does he have banded mail sized for a halfling? Yes. Okay. In that case, she is going to buy that banded mail and a shield. So that's going to be 50 plus 10. So 60 of their newfound gold. 60 of that 500 is going to go to this armor. That will definitely improve. So the banded mail is going to give an AC of 3, and the shield will reduce that to 2. That's really good. Now, the issue there is that Irwin Irwin hadn't been carrying the torch much. So we're going to see how that torch bearing shakes out. They are ready and equipped. Wow, Irwin is feeling really tough. Having gone from a 7 AC to a 2. Irwin's going to be right there in front. I keep rechecking because the 2 seems so improbable. Because they are going back to the same entrance, I'm going to use the same battle map I've drawn out before. They're faced with the same conundrum that they've been faced with before, which is they will get to Gunderholfen within the evening's watch. Do they camp and go into the dungeon at first light, or do they go in the middle of the night? They're going to decide on the way out there, and we're going to roll to see what encounters they have on the way there. Ganfell Swamp encounter table works with a D10, and I roll 3 times during daylight hours and 3 times during the night. I usually kind of split that because they're not fully there during the day or fully there during the night. So I've done 4 to 5 different rolls. But anyway, as they set out across the swamp, they have breakfasted with Clement and Isabel. They have visited the armorer. I don't think there's anything else they need to do. They're feeling good about all their other supplies. Also, one thing I forgot to mention is they're feeling good about being a party of 4 people. They have just decided to roll with that. So they don't want to recruit anyone. Basically, they don't want to delay getting back to Gunderholfen. So here they go. First encounter, nothing there. They continue across the swamp. Next encounter, nothing. Continue across the swamp. They run into something. Giant toads. There is, 1 to 6, okay. 6 giant toads. 2d6 times 10 is how many feet away. So about 60 feet away, they suddenly become aware of this movement and spot some giant toads hopping. It does specify that they hopping through the Ganfell Swamp. Toads are neutral. I'm going to roll on the reactions table to see if the toads react at all. 7. The monster is cautious. So as they've done when they spot anything, my party pauses. They take account of the situation. They're watching carefully to see how these toads react. The toads themselves seem cautious. My party decides to just stay put. They don't make any rash moves. They don't brandish their weapons, but they do have them like within grabbing distance. I forgot to roll for the weather today. It's just a cloudy day, a little calm. 1 round later, we roll reaction on those toads, and an 8. They're still cautious. My party's going to begin moving. There are 6 of these giant toads. They have not seen these before, I don't think. It is possible that Irwin knows of them because she has this farming background, perhaps Tori as well. I would assume that these things are a known creature around. They're not really like a monster. Yeah, so they remain... Do they take a few steps? Do they remain cautious? I think they just continue to take a few steps during this round. The toads still cautious. I don't know that there's a point in continuing to roll for the toads if they are just cautious but not threatening. My party is not going to threaten the toads, and they're going to branch off as best they can to continue moving away from the toads. They don't want to cause any kind of reaction from those toads. So I will say that has taken most of the watch as they've gotten through that part of the swamp. The sun is beginning to set. They're into their 3rd watch of the day, especially because they paused a little bit to watch those toads. I'm going to roll for another encounter here. 7. They don't encounter anything. They make it to the entrance to Gunderholfen, and they've talked about this, and they've experienced so much death that they are not going to go in there tonight. They are going to get a good rest, and enter at first light. The other thing they've done is that they've gotten pretty good at camping and feeling comfortable here. So they're getting a better rest. They're not as anxious or worried about what might find them on the outskirts of Gunderholfen. So they're all going to have a ration. And the way I'm tracking that is I'll just like sort of shade in 4 of these boxes. They've probably burned a torch. No, I don't think they have, but they'll start a fire tonight as they camp. As always, they camp a ways away from the entrance to Gunderholfen, perhaps even a mile, and they take up their watches during the night. So they rotate through those shifts. I'm thinking they probably have sort of plan for 12 hours so that each person can take a 2-hour watch, and they will still have an 8-hour block in there, but maybe it's a 10-hour block, and they figure it out so that they can each get a full night's rest and feel restored in the morning. So the next morning, who gets up first? Who has that last watch? I can do this. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. Virago has the last watch. Do they have any encounters during the night? I should have rolled that. No. With no encounters during the night, Virago's the last watch and awakens the rest of the party as dawn begins to break. They are ready to head back into Gunderholfen. They have also established, and Tori has seen them do this, so Tori is familiar too. They've established like a marching order anytime they approach the door. They understand how this works. So I have the benefit of running short sessions for myself in my solo play and getting to think about how to do this. If I were running this at the table and the game lasted 3 or 4 hours, I like to think I could think of this on the fly, but it's possible that I wouldn't. Here's what I've thought of is that I want this dungeon is living all the time. Like it is continuing whether or not my adventurers are in there. Just because the book says there are so many kobolds in a room doesn't mean there are always that many kobolds in a room. The number of kobolds in this location, as well as the number of monsters in the dungeon, is finite. They're not kobolds just magically replicating in a room in the back. So what I'm going to do is roll an encounter die, like a d6. On a 1, my party will encounter the number of kobolds that the adventurer has specified are in a certain room. But over the last 3 days, these kobolds have gone to do their guard changes where the other guards were. So 3 were in this first room, 3 were in this room, 2 were in this room. And as my party has been killing off kobolds, the kobolds that are hidden somewhere in this back hideout, as they come out to relieve their fellow kobolds, they are rolling a reaction as they get there. Sorry, I'm going to do a morale check. And if the morale check fails, those kobolds are going to flee the dungeon. So I'm going to subtract that many more kobolds from the total that might be in one of these back rooms here. 3 kobolds have, over the last couple of days, gone to replenish those guards at the front and discovered their bodies and the signs of a fight. The kobolds, without a chief around them, their morale is a 6. So I rolled a 7. I beat it. Those 3 kobolds have flew? They flew. They fleefed. So 3 more kobolds would have been in this guard station here. Those 3 have not fled. That's the past tense. The 2 that would have come into here did flee. That gets me 5 total kobolds that have fled, and wherever my party encounters more kobolds, they will be down that number of kobolds. But like I said, I'm going to roll a encounter. This doesn't mean that those 3 that pass the morale check here are in that room. I'm going to roll those encounters as they go through the rooms, and if it's a 1 on a d6, the encounter will happen there. My party does their marching order. They approach the first door. They light a torch to begin this set of dungeon turns. They light a torch. Now, who is going to hold that? I think what they're going to do, Irwin is now in the point because she is the best armored. No one has infravision. Virago, Tori, and Irwin all have shields. Tori is going to hold the torch. Tori is a cleric, new to the ways of fighting. This is not something that she wants to participate in if she can help it. Talira is going to have her short bow ready, so this way light is covered, ranged weapons are covered. Virago has a sword with which they can attack anything in melee. Irwin is going to switch between the spear and like a javelin. So as they go in here, Irwin has her spear out, and I'm going to roll for that encounter. There are no kobolds in there. They pass the trap, which, has the trap been repaired at all? Yes, the trap has been reset. So they are able to inform Tori. Tori's been by here before when the trap has been sprung and collapsed, that there is a pit trap there. They all step diagonally across it so that they don't fall into it. They approach this door. They do their normal guard of the door and open it. Is there anything in there? No. At this point, they feel like they've explored this, and it is a bit of a blind alley for them, so they head south. Do they find anything around here? No. They head up here. They know they have not explored much back here, and they know that they've explored most of the cave, and it led to a room where they saw 3 goblins. So they're going to head back this way. They had pushed aside a curtain in this room and seen a hallway leading to the back. They didn't stick long enough around it. They didn't explore anything there. And they saw 3 kobolds run back behind this door. So they're a little bit afraid that whatever back here, this is sort of where all the kobolds are hiding. They also have not gone in this door. That's where they're going. They're going to peek into this door, which is where they slew 4 kobolds and left 1 tied up. Are any kobolds in there? No. There are no kobolds in there, and they head to this door, and this is where they take it very seriously. They don't know what's behind this door. They get in their formation, and what I'm doing is looking in the book and on the map. So I have a map off screen on my iPad that I'm staring at. They open up this door. Virago and Irwin are in the front. Irwin is holding her spear. This room is very small. It's about 20 by 20. I guess that's not very small. And I'm going to read this as it appears in the book and then talk about it. There are 20 females and 5 young occupying this room. They cower in a corner as soon as they see my party walk in brandishing weapons. The room is covered with straw bedding, scraps of material, old clothes, and various types of kobold baby filth. There are also eggs placed around the northeast corner of the room. So right here, there's a whole pile of eggs. The book specifies that these 20 females and 5 young will cower in a corner or try to flee and alert the males in the other room. This is one of those things I would hope that I have read ahead in a book. I don't understand. There's no reason to impose this patriarchy on a fantasy world. So I don't see any reason why these female kobolds would cower in fear or try to alert the men rather than just fighting on their own. It seems inconceivable to me that they would not have javelins and weapons. As soon as we come in, seeing 20 kobolds and 5 young kobolds, my party is alarmed. As my party opens this door, they are alarmed. The kobolds in the room are alarmed. Several of them immediately, because there's 20 in a 20 by 20 room, they are packed. They don't have to move very far to get weapons that they have leaning against the walls. At least 5 of them grab javelins and brandish them towards my party. I'm going to try something I have not tried before, which is that kobolds are chaotic. As I understand it, you have an alignment language. So my chaotic thief Talira should be able to communicate to the kobolds in sort of a secret language. I usually play this off like it's Thieves' Cant or Druidic or something like that. Talira herself is not sure that this works, but seeing these kobolds, having heard them sort of speak before, Talira says, "We will leave you in peace. Do not follow us," or at least indicates this in sort of hand gestures and other signals that another chaotically aligned creature could understand. I guess it's important to understand, too, that these kobolds by the book are a little bit more intelligent than Talira. So I'm going to roll a reaction, and I think I want like a +2 on this. I mean, that's a hard thing to call as a solo DM, but I'm going to do a +2 to this reaction because I think this abruptness of having a human come in, look armed, and then sort of gesture, "We will leave you alone if you do not follow us." 3 + 2, 5. That doesn't matter. They are aggressive. They growl and threaten. This angers Virago. and Irwin, but they don't want to take the bait. There are far too many kobolds in this room for my party to take on. My party retreats. Now they are going to try to do the thing that they thought of doing in the other room, but figured they would be prevented from doing it, which is they're going to try to spike these kobolds in. Like, in other words, they're going to drive iron spikes into the door so that the kobolds can't easily open this door. This definitely tells my party that they're going to have to kind of speed run everything else in this lair, because there are 20 kobolds who know what's going on in here. This tells me to roll again in one round with a penalty of -4 because of that reaction that I rolled. That will be the round when my party retreats. Virago pulls out their hammer and spikes and begins driving them in. I mean, this is within 10 seconds, there's not a lot that they can get done. And those kobolds inside, 6. Still aggressive, growling and threatening. Roll again in one round with -4. This should add a -4. So 6 -4, 2 monster attacks. Great. So these 5 kobolds that have javelins run at my party. My party is able to get out the door and get it closed. I don't have a strength score for the kobolds. My strongest characters are all the same amount of strength. Irwin, Tori, and Virago all have a 12. So Tori and Irwin are going to try to hold this door closed while Virago jams those spikes in. How am I going to resolve the kobolds trying to pull the door open to free themselves? There is a chattering of the kobold language in which they are telling each other. The armed ones are telling the unarmed ones, pull this door open. Don't let the humans trap us in here. I think this might be a place where 2 people holding the door closed, if they roll strength checks, I want to do this in a way where if one of them misses, they have another shot at it. But if one of them fails, they still have a shot to maintain the door. But if so they're rolling under their strength, which is they each have a 12. A success is a 12 or under. If one fails, then the other rolls with a +2, which is a disadvantage. If they both fail, the kobolds get the door open, and if they both succeed, they hold the door for 1 round. And it's going to take maybe even like 6 rounds for Virago to get these spikes in. It's probably 1 round per spike, and they want to get 3 of these spikes in. So 3 rounds. Here's the first round. Irwin rolls her strength, succeeds. Tori rolls her strength. Okay, so if the second person fails, you know what? Yeah, if the first person fails, the second person rolls with a +2. If the first person succeeds, the second person rolls with a -2, enhancing it. So because I rolled a 14 on that one, Tori would have succeeded with that -2 help. Basically, I'm trying to accommodate for like a advantage-disadvantage situation. So for the first spike, Virago gets driven into the door. Second round, Irwin holds, succeeds. So Tori gets a -2 on her roll, succeeds. Second spike is driven in. Third round, Virago is kneeling down on the ground now, trying to drive that third spike in. Irwin holds, succeeds. So Tori has a -2 to her strength check. Succeeds. So 3 successes in a row. This is the best they've ever done. And they get 3 spikes driven in that door. Virago keeps going after that and gets 5 spikes into this door to hold it. So they're pretty confident that's going to work. And they're going to beat it around the corner. So that was 5 spikes. And I've used 3 before. Virago is down 8 spikes. I'm not tracking that currently on my inventory sheet, so that's why I made a note of it here to track. Definitely see I'm a little loosey-goosey with the tracking of everything, just making notes, scribbling all over. That's how I do things as a dungeon master. My party had come in here and then spent for sure 10 minutes cautiously getting back to the back. I don't think that took a whole 10 minutes. They wait outside do they wait outside in the hallway at all? They're sure that that door is secure. You know, at least they're in the hallway for 30 seconds or so to like watch the door they can tell kobolds are trying to scramble that door open, but as of now, they are not able to escape. It's probably just going to be a 50-50 yes, no roll as to whether they escape later. My party goes into this room. Do they encounter anyone? No, they do not. So it's safe. They assume at least that those kobolds they found in here kind of guarding this room or just standing around in this room off or off in this habitat, whatever is back there. I think my party wants to go to this passageway that's hidden behind the curtain. Although having heard about the chief and its giant weasels, they're wondering if that's, the curtain guards the way to the chief. They don't want to risk going in a room where they saw several kobolds escape to. I'm going to say on a 1, they go to that north room. They go to the dangerous one. But on any other roll, they go south. So they head south. They see this passageway. Oh, great. I didn't even read ahead. So they're walking towards the chief's hall. This passageway, they peeked back there and seen that it goes about 30 feet down and then opens up into a larger room. My party approaches carefully, of course, knowing that there's no door here. So as soon as they walk behind this curtain with a torch, they're going to be seen. So I think the first thing they do is they peer behind the curtain. Irwin does that. She can see that within here, there are sources of light. She's not totally sure what they are, but it's big flames. So they stick to the walls, all holding their weapons out. Seems like a good time for Talira to check her hide in the shadows ability. Is that cracked? I'm going to roll that again. 20. So the hide in shadows is a 10. She does not succeed, so she's just as visible as everyone else. They nevertheless stick to the wall. They douse their torch and stick to the wall, sort of creep down here to see, until they can get a sense of what's in there. They see braziers on either side of a primitive throne on this far wall that are sending shadows flickering and dancing across a once stately room. There are rows of columns lining this room. Rows of columns line the walls while the far wall is garishly colored, splattered with paint and muck. On the throne sits a stout kobold flanked by 3 menacing weasels. There are additionally 5 spear-wielding kobolds with ant head designs emblazoned on their shields standing near the center of the room, listening attentively to their leader. So I can see in the book that there's a little bit of like DM information, but I'm spoiling myself, of course. There's no way around that. My party, though, has not been offered any chance to parlay at all in this. They've encountered guards after guards who either instantly attack or where my party feels that they have no choice but to attack. So Talira indicates to the party, maybe we can offer them something. And what do we have to offer? We just have gold? Boy, I hate giving up gold. I've got gold and rations and weapons. I'm afraid it's gotta be gold. Here's the thing that happens in my D&D games when I'm playing with a group that I always wonder about. What's the realistic way here where Talira can snatch, say, 100 gold out of the kitty rather than alerting the kobolds that they have several hundred? It does kind of make sense to me that they split this gold up among them because they don't want one person to have it and get killed and then it's left behind. So on her person, Talira has 100 gold. So Talira steps into the light of this room. These 5 kobolds, their chief, are all back here, and Talira steps out enough that they can see her. The rest of her companions are lined against the wall. Their hope is that the kobolds don't realize how many of them there are. Talira has put her bow onto her backpack and says in this chaotic language to them, in this chaotic cant, "We come in peace. We do not want to trouble you, but we are curious about the rooms here in Gunderholfen and how to get to the next level down." So with that offer of parlay and this gold, I think a +2 is the fair way to do it. I'm wondering if there's like +4 on that reaction table. But I like too about basic D&D is the reaction table that tells you how the monster reacts versus what we often do in like modern D&D, which is say do a charisma check, which doesn't always account for how that other creature is reacting. This just takes it out of our hands and just says roll a reaction. But I think with that chaotic speech and this offer of gold, she's going to get a +2 to the roll. So Talira does that, tries to look as innocent as possible, says we want to find our way to this second level. 5 + 2 is a 7. So the monster is cautious. Roll again in 1 round. The chief hears this and considers it. Thinks this is a pretty good offer. Virago, who is my most intelligent? It's going to be Tori. Tori is looking around the room, and Tori sees that the walls are draped in wall hangings and covered in crude kobold graffiti, little of which can be made out except that pictures of kobolds triumphing over goblins can be recognized. So Tori announces this to Virago in a quiet voice, and Virago is waiting for the moment to inform Talira of that. Perhaps they can use this aggression towards the goblins as more of a parlay, and that will come into play when I re-roll in one round. So the chief is cautious, he considers it, and he says something in kobold to his guards about these intruders again. I wonder if these are the ones who have slain our brothers and sisters. Should I trust them? And Virago whispers to Talira, tell them we'll take care of the goblins for them if they will direct us towards them and how to get to the second level. Talira now speaks again in chaotic and says, we share a common enemy, these goblins. Accept our offering to you, noble kobold, and direct us to the lower levels, and we will rid you of as many goblins as we can. So that's, I think at that point it's got to be like a +4 to whatever check I do here, because there's money on offer, there's an offering of peace, and there's an offering of goblins. I hate the fact that I might even roll the I can't roll an attack. So 5 + 4, a 9, still cautious. But the chief is coming around to this. It appreciates both the money and the offer of violence. What else can we give them? We could always threaten, if the standard action movie bargain of, if we don't return to Longfelt tonight, an entire army will descend upon you, something like that. But I don't think that's not gonna work against kobolds. They're fairly intelligent for a monster, but not incredibly intelligent. The fact that none of these people have attacked, I think, is telling the chief this might be a good offer. So side note, I'm just discovering that my counter distances are a little bit different depending on the setting. I guess I'm in this dungeon. How far away would they be? They're 50 feet away? Is that even possible? No, they're just 30 feet away from Talira. Yeah, you know what? Virago is unfamiliar with this gesture that they're about to make, but they reveal themselves from the hall and kneel down on one knee, put their sword in front of them, sort of like a knight kneeling. This is a thing they've read about in storybooks or heard about in stories or something, and says, my sword is yours against the goblins. So Talira is going to reroll that reaction with her +4 because of the gold and the mention of the goblins, and then adding Virago's charisma bonus to it. So +5, 7 + 5 is a 12. This monster is friendly. With that gesture, the chief is convinced. Although it is surly, it motions to one of the guards who approaches Talira and takes that sack of gold from her. Talira feels this chill as one of these monsters that she has previously fought with has come that close to her. She feels that bit of danger as her heart races. And then the chief says to her in chaotic, if you head back to the north passage, past the door you'll find a cave. Head to the east. He's basically giving them directions right through this whole cave where they were. They pretend this is new information to themselves. He probably suspects that these are the ones who have killed his other kobolds around here, but he's going to let this one slide, I guess. He tells them, looking on the map to see where he can tell them to go. He tells them it's a far distance to the next level of this complex. They're going to have to head across the goblin lair, east to west, as much as they can. Then they're going to have to traverse. I believe there's a gate he can direct them to. And he said, past the hall with the columns, you're going to head north and then around to the east and to the south to find a staircase to the second level. But he's basically telling them direction-wise how to get there. It's really hard for him to be specific. First of all, the chaotic communication is just a series of hand gestures and grunts and clicks and things like that. It's not a totally clear language, so that it doesn't have enough vocabulary to explain this. But also, there are so many rooms, and he's trying to tell them the goblins. He will also add, they have a terrible ally in the hobgoblins. He just says, in the big goblins beyond. And I think Talira and Virago are starting to put this together. that they were told there were 3 entrances, or they found 3 entrances to this complex. They tried one of them, it was guarded by hobgoblins. They tried another, it was guarded by kobolds. They made it across this mushroom cave to another part of the complex and were greeted by goblins. The last thing the chief says is, beware the goblins' traps. They have many, and they trap every door. And he also says, if I see you again within my lair, I will not hesitate to release my giant weasels upon you. So with that, with the threat of giant weasels looming over them, they bow and they walk out, sort of walking backwards, trying to keep an eye on everyone in front of them. I should have played that out with a couple of these kobolds missing because of all those that they have slain in the past, but wasn't thinking in the moment there. And that is probably the best I can do for this session. We'll just return with them headed to the goblin entrance.